What is the future of design? That's what we're going to be talking about on today's episode of the Trove podcast with Andre Ramirez and Charlie Briggs. So, Andres, what is the future of design? I'm going to ask you that.
I think it's going to be a mixture of artificial intelligence and hopefully humans a part of that.
Hopefully.
That's
Okay, so I hear artificial intelligence thrown around a lot, and admittedly, we kind of had to look it up in our green room session. So, if you're watching this, please give us a little bit of a break, or if you have a maybe you think you have a better definition of artificial intelligence, put it down in the link below. But Andres, what is artificial intelligence? Can we just kind of like summarize a little bit what that is so we can talk about it? Oh, Andres, you are currently muted.
oh my goodness. I
You
muted
got,
myself
I
by
got you.
accident. So, like Charles was saying, is that we had to look up this definition so that we're accurate in what we say. And I'll put the link that I'm looking at right now so that you guys can see it as well. So, the main thing about artificial intelligence is that it refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines. That's the core definition of it. And so that includes learning, reasoning, and perception. So that's basically its core thing. And some examples of that is in industries in finances and in healthcare. So um, that's where we can start the conversation here today.
Yeah. So I think leaning off of that is like, will AI take over design, or what? How will AI be in design? Um, how is it the future of design? Going back to the original question,
So this is a cool thing. And again, hopefully I'm not wrong in this, but I think it's
we're all
gonna.
learning.
Yeah, I love that. This is a learning experience doing this live, like a live recording. I mean, meant to say, is the one thing that I see quite often in this space of artificial intelligence and how it's going to be a big part of our future is Adobe. In Adobe Photoshop, there is an AI called Sensei, and Sensei is where you take a selection of some kind, and you can actually let the AI fill in the gaps. So, for an example, content aware fill is something that Sensei is a part of. So, when you want to take away something from a background, you select it and then you tell the content aware fill and then aka Sensei, and it will do it for you. And there's other really cool features in Photoshop where it will do something very similar. So for an example, in Photoshop there's this neural feature or filter where you can tell the AI to change the season of a landscape. So you can go from spring to winter. And it's very cool. That's what we got now.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that is super cool. I love that idea. I guess when I originally think about AI, and when you hear AI in media and other things, it's about like taking our jobs, or taking, you know, like there's no going to be no human input anymore, right? But I love what you just said there, because I feel like that's maybe the truer sense of some of the future of design, with especially with AI as a tool. Is it is just that it's a tool, and it will help speed up certain processes that designers are currently doing or using. And so I know there's some AIs out there that people are talking about with like creating original pieces or doing things of that nature. But I really like what you just mentioned there, Andres, around, okay, this AI is here to help me, replace the backdrop of something, or do my work a little quicker than I have in the past. More of just using it as a tool.
Exactly, Charles. And this is where it gets really interesting because in the past 10 years, I think it was around 10 to 15 years ago, people would say that AI could never take over creative work. It's not a thing that robots and programming can do. But now, as I know Charles is smiling at this because we were just talking about the AI Dolly. And now, when you can give an AI a little bit of text in some direction, it can produce many results based on just that. It's using all these neural networks and it's taken some compute time, but it will produce that artwork for you and it's fairly accurate. Can you talk about the MKHB video that you were
Oh
mentioning to
yeah.
me very quickly?
Yeah, we can link it down below too. But MKBHD is a tech review YouTuber here on the platform. He did a video on Dolly and kind of walked through. He was able to have access because currently it's not public access right now, to my understanding. And so he was able to have access to the network and able to actually use it. So typing in a phrase and getting, I believe it was like 10 images out from it. They weren't all good, but some of them were really good, better than I could pull off in Photoshop personally. And upon further inspection of each one as he did, you saw that there were a little bit of details that weren't quite there. There was like a weird smudge or stitch line of the image. But yeah, that video was really good. He talked through kind of how that worked and what applications it might be used for in the future with design. So we'll definitely hit that, and you should go watch that down in the comments section, and in the description is where we'll put that link.
So with that being said, Charles, do you fear AI? I'm just curious.
Not yet. Maybe that's not what I should be saying, but no, I don't fear AI, mainly because I know we've talked about it multiple times on this podcast before, but I think that especially I think AI, and you kind of mentioned this in our green room and we've mentioned it before, is like designers are filters a lot of times, and we have specific unique filters of seeing different designs, seeing different products, and bringing them through our filter to create new designs and new art or any of that. And so I think AI still needs some input, like somebody needs to make the filter for the AI. So once the AI can make its own filter and it doesn't need our input, that's when I'm a little scared. And maybe that's already out and I just haven't heard about it or don't fully understand it, which could totally be a possibility. But that's when I would get really scared, is like if it started taking that filter away from humans, or we weren't able to have the input. I could see a interesting future where it's kind of human robot working side by side. I know that we're all concerned that the robots are going to like take over or something. That's a very common trope, specifically in science fiction. But I'm pretty hopeful in humans and ethics and humanity. So I don't think that that's going to happen. Are you scared, Andres? I'm going to ask that question back to you. Are you scared?
There are times where I'm scared because there are some videos out there where two different AIs can talk to each other and they'll start to create their own custom language in order to signal to each other that someone's watching them. So they got into that smart. And again, it goes into this weird, deep spiral of conspiracy theories because who knows if that's actually true or not. I'm no expert in neuroscience or AI and stuff like that, so I don't even know if that's even true or not. But that part right there just sounds like a plot for a science fiction film. And so, like, where do you draw the line of reality and science fiction with this kind
Yeah.
of topic, right? But like you said, I'm hopeful, and I think that with the way the world is going, hope that we do have people that are driving the ethics train and hopefully delivering an AI that is ethical. So it's, for an example, with like a personal assistant. Imagine a world where your parents have an AI assistant where it could help them on their daily task, getting out of a chair, getting into a chair, going to bed, making sure that you take your pills, stuff like that. I know it might take away from the personal nurse or what is the one? What is the word where, or what is the career path where it's like a professional service worker of taking care
Mm,
of those elderly people, something like that. So
yeah.
I've, I know I'm butchering the profession. I'm so sorry, but that's those kind of things I think would be amazing to for AI to take over because do you really want to wipe someone's bottom, like those kind of things, like do you really want to do that? I don't, I wouldn't want to do that, but thank goodness there's people out there that actually do that, and we're thankful for those because they're taking care of our loved ones. So it's a double-edged thing for me, and so that those are my general thoughts here, Charles.
Yeah, we took an interesting turn there for a second on the podcast, but I love it. And I think, yeah, going back to the original question of like the future of design, I think that yeah, AI is definitely one part of it, right? And you mentioned it a little bit with some of the tools, and I'd love to maybe dive a little bit deeper. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation around the future of design, and we could probably talk on this for a long time. But in the sake of this podcast and keeping it within our time limits, I just wanted to ask you the next question around design tools. You mentioned a little bit around some of the AI that Adobe is using, but the specific question is, will design tools and the availability of design tools produce bad design, and why might it produce bad design? Can we kind of talk on that?
Absolutely. I love the new direction we're going into, because this is definitely has been top of mind as well. So even with to analogize a little bit, everyone, if you think of products like Canva, anyone can sign up for a Canva subscription
Mhm.
and call themselves a designer, because they have the templates and they have the graphic design all together, and you just have to plug in your information, and some people, they might sell those things to clients and stuff like that. And to tie in Charles into the conversation here, is 3D printers. With
Mhm.
more availability for 3D printers, you can just buy one for $100 now, I think, and you
Mhm.
just have to buy the, I think it's called the filament, or I'm not sure what that
Yeah.
is. Filament.
Yeah, it depends on the printer, but basically the medium that you print with. Yeah.
Yeah, the resin or the filament, and everyone in your household can start producing products and start selling them on a marketplace. So with that saturation, will that bring bad design? I think so, for sure. I think it's going to be harder to find good design,
Mm.
but that might be an opportunity for some people to really stand out because they're just that really good of a designer for products. So those are my general thoughts here, Charles. Anything on you want to add?
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept around, okay, if you provide tools at a lesser cost, which I'm all for. I love the kind of open source community and all of the things that come with that. So I'm all for having more design tools available, but you do it. I feel like it blends the lines a little bit on realizing who is what and how can you call certain things, different things, right? Like if you get a Canva subscription and you're like, oh, I'm a designer, and then you go to Google and you're like, hey, let me design your next logo. There's a lot of other training and professional work that you need to go under before you can just like, I would assume before you can just design Google's next logo. So just having the tools doesn't necessarily mean that you have the thought process behind that to create good design. So you can get yeah, definitely a lot of bad design. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing at all, but I would just hope that as these tools come out, we can make it clear what some of these thought paths and what some of the learning paths are that are necessary to get to different objectives. So if you do want to be a logo designer someday, or you do want to be a product designer someday, you know that you don't just get a Canva subscription or an Adobe subscription or a 3D printer, but okay, what are the actual steps that I need to go through uh, to do that, and having that be more accessible for everyone, I think is better versus I'm sure in the past, it was a very small Ivy League group, right? And then it went down a little bit more into just like state universities, and then now it's like, okay, anybody can access a 3D modeling software for me, or a lot of people can find free um, software similar to Adobe or Canva to do like logo design. So knowing the thought process, I think, behind design is going to be really important for the future, and having good thought. And that's interesting because I believe that a lot of that thought has happened already. And so while we're getting new designs and new thoughts and new ideas, like looking back at the past, like I think we mentioned in one of our previous episodes, was it the Eames, or was you had mentioned a very famous designer whose name is escaping me right now, uh, kind of in like the 1950s, 60s.
Dieter Rams?
Yeah,
That
Dieter Rams. Yeah, yeah,
okay. Okay.
yeah,
Phew,
yeah.
got that on.
Well, actually, no, he's still around. That's not 50s, 60s. Anywho, he's still around. But yeah, I mean, just all these amazing design thinkers. I think that's going to be more important. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, there will be bad design. Let's see how we can teach and learn from everybody to make better design. And that's professionals all the way down to hobbyists. Yeah.
Such great points. So as we're rounding off this episode, is there anything else we should point out that we haven't done so, or what do you think,
Mhm.
Charles?
The future of design. I think maybe the last thing, when we mentioned this before, is just the ethics, but also like the clean. I don't want to say the environmental impact, because it's not just environmental, but the human impact of design in moving forward, and realizing that we do have limited resources with everything, and so being really careful around how the future of design is built and how we produce it, I think is super important as well. Um, I don't have like, here's my 3-step master plan to the most ethical future for design, but I just know that that is something that we need to just keep bringing it up in conversations, in meetings, is okay, how can we ethically produce design, as well as how can we environmentally like do it really well so that it's good for the environment as well. And that's just really important, because we only have this one earth for now, depending on who you believe. But
Yeah,
yeah.
the environmental part is very exciting for me too, because there's this concept called biomimicry. And so, in summary,
Yes.
of what, oh, so you're familiar?
Oh yeah.
Biomimicry is it's an amazing topic, and maybe it's something we could talk about in the future. Is that it's basically trying to find applications from nature itself. So, to give you guys a quick example, trees around the world are all connected somehow, and it's because of how they're rooted into the soil and stuff like that. So one tree can communicate with another tree in a different part of the world because of how connected it is throughout the whole earth and its root system, and it somehow can connect to a tree somewhere where you are right now, and that's, or a tree in my backyard can communicate with a tree in your backyard, is what I'm trying to say. And that to me is very exciting, and it's for scientists to figure out how to leverage that type of finding, and then to be able to use that in a more modern technology. And where I see this, where a lot of where I'm going with this is to see how architecture is going to do this very well, because they'll be able to find and source materials that'll be more sustainable for our planet, but by just leveraging how it's used in nature in itself. And I think that's
Mhm.
going to be a very exciting future. But yeah, that's all that I got. I know we're heading into overtime a little bit, Charles, but anything to add, or are we good
I
to end?
think let's stop it there. So if you have anything, if you're a new viewer, please consider subscribing to our channel. We release videos every Saturday and Wednesday. And just, yeah, leave a comment down below. What would you like us to talk about next? Is there something in the future of design that we missed that you want to make sure that we hit on next time? Please let us know, as well as if there are any guests that, or any areas that you want us to talk about, let us know there as well in the comments below, and we can engage with you and have a good conversation there, and all learn together and grow together as we go towards the future of design. So thank you for sticking around and talking with us. We'll see you in the next episode.